starts, not wanting to risk anything on the opening day. They seemed happy enough, though. One of the first contenders to strike problems was Rob Walk. His hopes of a good result were dashed shortly before the service park, when he lost over an hour effecting repairs. The sight of the service point was a welcome break from the ardours of fighting 2 tons of heavy metal through twisty sand roads. But there wasn't much work needed on the ultra-reliable Toyota Land Cruiser. Apart from a broken power steering hose, everything was in order. A couple of minutes later, the Chepek team arrived, followed by Carolyn, who'd made up a lot of ground considering that he doesn't have the benefit of a navigator. Trying to find one's service crew can sometimes be more difficult than finding the correct route through.
Well, this is like the start of the race. When you're leaving and when you arrive at a service point, the guys are very pumped up because they want to see their service crew. They want to find out where they're lying. They need to get the car refueled. They have to get out of the vehicle to refuel and get some water, clean your visor. In RP's case, they clean the windscreen and make sure you can get out of there without wasting any time.
By now, the Queen's Motor Spares team of Harvey and Newton had also arrived, and after a wheel change and taking on more fuel, they were back in the hunt. The Alberts and Mathieu Raceco was in need of some TLC though.
Bernardus is a very hard driver, and this is one of his problems with reliability, and as you can see, hard driving damages the car.
It was totally unplanned, but we started 27th, we came into the pits 4th, and it seems like we've stripped the bolt on the shock. We will get it right and get back on track soon.
Off-road racing is all about camaraderie, and Westlau kindly loaned Alberts a spare front shock.
Well, even though we compete against each other, the nice thing about off-road racing is that everybody's there to help each other. And if you need something, the other teams run in and help you, even though they're your opposition. And I guess that's what makes off-road racing so special. But Coetzee has really made some hard work for his service crew.
Yeah, the problem is, it's a horrible start this morning and pass all that slow guys in front of me. It's very difficult, but the dusk is unreal. It's a pity, about 5 k's from here we stuck with out of fuel, so I bumper lift with one of the Sandmasters, and then secondly I bumper lift with a guy with a scooter, so that's nice. I'm here.
By now, the first quads were heading for service, and it was Mark Breckel in the lead, closely followed by Van Deventer. Look how relaxed Van Deventer looks as cameraman Johan Dierhoff leans out of the helicopter and zooms in for a tight shot. Also going well in the quad category was Paul Schomser, and he chased the raceco of locals Rashid Noble and Steve Cooper towards a refuel service point, which Christo van der Merwe was just leaving. The 4-stroke Hondas were also running like clockwork, and Struig was ahead of his teammate and Niels van der Walt on the first of the Polaris versions. Unlike the cars, which often have a fuel capacity of over 200 litres, quads and bikes need a fuel stop every 80 or so kilometres. Coronel de Villiers had managed to pull away from Costello to take a comfortable lead in the Tidler quad class, as Honda-mounted Fani de Jong shows how bumpy a flat-looking road can be. Not far behind, Jojo Tanks rider Francois Coetzee also tries to claim air miles on his heavier 4-stroke version. There was some frantic work going on at the service halt. Last year's winner, Mark Breckel, was leading the field after the first quarter, but was starting to feel the pressure.
Yeah, very well. Vickers is just behind me, so I've got to move quick.
Another drum, another drum.
Chasing him was the cool, calm and collected-looking Van Deventer, and there was a relaxed atmosphere around in the Gauloise Blondes pit area. Not far away, it was a different story in the Joburg Yamaha pit.
Yeah, it's tough. It's difficult to overtake the cars. I don't see you. And once you're behind them in the dust, you can't see a thing. I nearly crashed twice, so I've got to take it quite easy. Try and get to the finish tonight.
Some clever fuel tank strategy by the FMF Kawasaki team saw Clayton Enslin at the head of the bike field, followed by Graham McLaughlin on the Shell Honda. Pre-race favourite Alfie Cox had dropped back after falling into a hole in the notorious riverbed section, but was clearly in a hurry to get to the service where proper repairs could be carried out to his motor, which had overheated as a result of a punctured radiator. These refuel points provide for some interesting insights into race strategy, as one false move can result in fuel being spilt, and with bikes being marginal on fuel, this can be catastrophic. Darrell Curtis loses little time. Showing that he can still mix it with the youngsters was Jeremy Davies, who's won this event many times when it was still based in the Freiburg area. Spencer Creel was another rider still in touch with the leaders, and he leaves the refuel in a hurry, but he's not quick enough, and he's forced to eat dust from one of the Ladeneva entries. Also in a hurry is Wayne Farmer, who has a narrow advantage over rival Rian van Niekerk in the battle for the 200 class honours. Errol Dalton shows exactly how fast the pace is as he flashes past the camera. It was like the breakfast run on sand as bike after bike flashed past in quick succession. Greg Aspinall lifts his front wheel and is followed by Evan Pretorius, Quinton Milton, Carl LaRue, and a choked quad rider, Johan van Lille, sucks in the Kalahari sand. It's interesting to compare riders' fortunes as they arrive at service. Van Niekerk is in a strong position and wants his face washed, while teammate Chris Dodd's race was brief.
Well, bad start. At least it happened at the start of the race and not towards the end. 20 k's out, hit a ledge. Back wheel kicked up and I went over the handlebars and I landed on my shoulder and broke my collarbone. So yeah, I guess I'll be helping Marcel.
Reiniker and Houghton were home first at the end of the day. While some of the younger generation seemed oblivious to the proceedings, others watched keenly from lofty perches. Both crew members looked remarkably fresh as they emerged from the office after a day's work. SA 4x4 editor Derek Lawley was quick to quiz Houghton about the day as Reiniker faced the camera.
We had a nice run. We had to stop this morning for fixing a power steering pipe. It cost us about 10 minutes of time, and we had a puncture on the second loop, but we're quite happy. Of course, in one piece, there's nothing wrong with the car, and we're looking very forward for tomorrow, so we're very happy with our results of today.
Next to complete the first half of the race were the Chepex.
We started out in 17th position and gradually worked our way forward and seemed to have come in first overall at this stage. It was a long day, we got a puncture, but otherwise the car ran beautifully and we had a good smooth run.
Once the times had been corrected, the Chepex held a 3-minute advantage over the Toyota as the Schilling-Thorn combination were third, less than a minute ahead of Lambert and Fourie. Tony and Mandy Yeo held second in the production category, but were almost an hour behind class rivals Reiniker and Houghton. There was a very close battle for third in the production category as the Birkins had a 38-second lead over Cecil Fincham and Flick de Klerk. As expected, McLaughlin ended the day at the top of the motorcycle timesheets after Enson's fuel plan backfired and he ran dry. Dalton's good ride continued and he was second with more than 3 minutes in hand over Davies, which gave the Shell Honda team first, second and third. Van Niekerk had a huge lead in the 200 class and was giving the 250 and 500 riders a good run for their money.
This morning it was very dusty, very dusty. The dustiest race I've had in a long time. All the guys took a lot of strain. I think there were a couple of accidents. I think this morning we all just took it a bit easier to get through the dust. Once we got going in the sandy sections, it wasn't that dusty, and I just pushed hard the whole day. When some of the top guys had a bit of problems, I saw that, and I saw a gap, and I just thought, well, if I push hard, I can make quite a lead.
Dubai resident David McBride was invited to this race by Alfie Cox and gives us an insight into the racing over there.
Yeah, it's very dusty, and we always go in front of the cars. We don't have to put up with dust from cars or four-wheelers or anything like that. We've got no bushes, and it's a lot more hillier, over hills and just raw dunes, like 2,000–3,000 feet high.
By the end of the day, Van Deventer had established himself at the head of the quad pack with a 5-minute lead over Breckel. The rest were way behind, and it was still de Villiers leading the little 200 class.
Die route se merk was baie goed. Die hele route op sigself is baie goed. Ek hou van die tweede loop. Dis nie meer so vervelig soos laas jaar daai lang seksies nie. Maar net die stof man, ja die stof is 'n groot probleem hierso. En ek sien van die motorfietsse sonder petrol gaan staan, Darrell Kit is gaan staan, Clayton Enslin het gaan staan. Dit is eintlik baie hartseer. Ek meen mense kom so ver, mense wil sukses hê as jy na so 'n wedren toe kom.
Well, this is a service point, and this is one place where everybody expects to get to in daylight. As you can see, Pete Swanepoel wasn't expecting to get there too early because he's got such a tiny tent, it takes him a minute to put it up. But it's really a great camaraderie around there. The guys sit down and braai together and have a post-mortem and discuss what happened during the race, and if only, you know, we call this if only racing. And Rashid Noble, he doesn't do anything small. He makes sure that he brings the whole show to the service point.
Well, this is a nice race coming out, spending the night in the bush. We start off tomorrow morning. Yeah, I think it's part of the spirit.
Well, George doesn't look like such a happy guy. You know, I raced with Kenny last year, and he's having a time in this Pajero, but he's a battler and he'll be there at the end.
The camping is good. It's going to be bloody cold though tonight. I think it's going to be about 5 or 6 degrees minus. But we'll have fun. At least we can work all night on the vehicle, make sure it's ready for tomorrow.
For children, it was playtime as parents gathered around the numerous fires that lit up the campsite, and the familiar smell of bride meat mingled with exhaust gases and welding equipment to create the unique atmosphere of the Toyota 1000 Desert Race. For Mike Potgieter and Gary Hodgson in their VW Beetle, completing the day was an achievement. It was truly a team effort, as Potgieter lost the use of his hand in an earlier accident.
Very well, unfortunately, Gary, he changes gears for me, and he navigates at the same time. And we seem to, it's our first time together, and it's working very well with Gary. He seems to be able to read my thoughts and knows when I want to change gears. 1 or 2 slips, but that's it. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be where we are.
Yeah, most of these guys aren't in for an easy night's sleep because some of the competitors have broken down and they're going to get into the bottle and have a few dops and enjoy the veld. Well, most of these guys wouldn't have had a